Good evening, or afternoon, whatever. It's 5 o'clock somewhere, right? Um, now, sorry, I'm just getting over a cold. The Nintendo Switch is officially 6 years old. See, damn, time flies when you reach adulthood, but anyway. Now, this whole, I still love the Switch. I love the whole hybrid concept and everything, because that's not really the point of this video. I'm not gonna just shit on the Switch, even though I will be kind of critical about some things. Um, like, for example, the Switch is definitely underpowered. Like, there's no denying that. But, this thing, the innards and circuits and everything were, like, outdated before the system even launched. But that's the whole other story. Despite this, over the course of 6 years, the Switch is doing exceedingly well. It's still selling. It's sold, 122 million units worldwide. Probably the number one question is that, the question a lot of people have is, will it outsell the PS2? Honestly, I don't know. Like, maybe, maybe not. If things keep going the way they are, then maybe. I don't know. Because that would be a pretty impressive feat, the PS2, which sold 155 million units. But what I want to talk about is, like, what's coming next. Like, I mean, I do think we're going to see more ports of, or remasters of GameCube games, especially with how well the Metroid Prime remaster is selling. That was my last video. I talked about some potential ideas. So I do think we'll see some more of that. It's funny how we love nostalgia so much. I think it's because it's like it takes us back to a time where we didn't necessarily worry about. It's like an simpler times for us. Like whether we, like for me, for example, the GameCube era was when I was in high school. Sometimes I do miss. It's like the whole high school thing. It's like maybe you've seen those memes that'll show like school hallway with all the lockers and stuff, and it's like, deep down you'll miss this hall or whatever and something. It's like, for me, whenever I see it, it's like, it's kind of 50-50, some things I miss, some things I don't. Like, for example, I don't miss all the drama. But, sometimes you miss some of the people you used to see, like, every day. Like, obviously, like, keep in touch with internet isn't exactly the same, but whatever. The point, getting back to the Switch, honestly, because with how far into the lifespan the system is, and like I said, it's still selling well, I don't think we're going to see, like, an updated thing, like a Switch Pro, if you will, like, or Super Switch, I think has kind of a nice ring to it. Yeah, I don't think we're going to see anything like that. Any upgrades, we'll put it that way. So I think that in another year or two, we'll probably see Nintendo will either announce or unveil a new console. And the question is, like, what will their next thing be? Will it be another hybrid system, like a spiritual successor to the Switch? Or will they go back to the more traditional route, make a more conventional type console? Or will they just come out with a new gimmick entirely? Well, a couple of things I want to talk about for that was that, because of depending on the route they go. For one thing, actually, one thing I have to get off my chest. Whichever route they take, whether they make a conventional console or a spiritual successor to the Switch or another gimmick, Nintendo, it's time to retire the motion controls. Now, I've said before, I don't hate motion controls. I just have to be in the right mood to play them. Any games that use motion controls, like, because it's like, they're fine for games like the occasional certain types of sports or party games. They're fine for that, but when it's like for things like platformers and flying games, it feels so out of place, and I feel like it's almost become like the norm with their consoles. Like, from like, you go back to like the NES, for example. Yeah, you had motion control things like the Power Glove or the U-Force, but those were sold separately, or like the Super Nintendo, you had the mouse controller for Mario Paint, and it worked with other games as well, but it wasn't like that mouse controller was bundled with the console. The console came with standard controllers, and then the mouse was something you could buy separately, like, if you wanted to. Like, if you wanted to buy those games. Or the GameCube had that Donkey Kong game with the bongo drums. Again, sold separately. You know what I'm saying? Like, like, why can't they just go back to that, where it's like, if they want to make a hybrid console or a gimmicky type of thing, okay, but bundle the console with standard controllers, and then make the gimmicky stuff, like, sold separately. Or, like, the motion controls could be for certain games that are sold separately. Like, you don't have to buy them. I mean, not every game has to have motion controls. Like, a perfectly good example of this is Fire Emblem Games, which is an amazing game. And see, as the story progresses and you recruit more characters, you get these little mini games for your hub area, including a fishing game and even a rail shooter game where you ride on a dragon. Now, I love rail shooters. It's part of the reason Star Fox is one of my favorite Nintendo franchises. But how do you play the rail shooter in this? Motion controls. There's literally no other way to play it. You can't use controls or anything, like your standard, you have to use the motion controls. And it's just like, why? I mean, even if I hated rail shooters, I would still feel that way. It's just like, why do you have to have, like, you see what I'm saying? Like, like, motion controls are fine. Like, they don't have to be in every single game. Make it a separate thing. Like I said, a gimmick that's sold separately, or a controller that's sold separately, made for specific games. It doesn't have to be in everything. So, that out of the way. The thing is, like, because if they go with, like, another hybrid console, because my wondering is, will it be backwards compatible with the Switch? Because even after the next console comes out, which, like I said, that could be like 2 or 3 years from now, I do still think they'll keep supporting the Switch from down the road, because it'll be kind of stupid to just dump it with how successful it's been, even as, like, they move on to other things. Plus, that's what they've always, not just Nintendo, but everyone has kind of always done. Like, the NES came out in '85, and the Super Nintendo came out in '91, but we still saw games being released for the NES till about '93. Excuse me. Or the original PlayStation 1, PSX, whatever, came out in, what was it, 94, 95? PS2 came out in 99, but we're still seeing games being released for the PlayStation 1 until about 2003. I can keep going, but you get the idea. So, yeah, like, even when the new system comes out, I think we'll still see games for the Switch for another 2 years or so, or whatever. But that being said, if they go, like, make another hybrid console, like, would it be backwards compatible with the Switch? Because it's like, it's interesting because the Switch is kind of both, it's hybrid, it's a handheld as well as a home console. And see, Nintendo's home consoles, they were never, like, backwards compatible. You couldn't play NES on Super Nintendo or Super Nintendo on N64, unless you had some weird third-person adapter or something, But then with the handheld market, you could play Game Boy Color on Game Boy Advance on the original DS on the original 3DS. You see what I'm saying? Like, so because the Switch kind of does both, unless, well, there's also the Switch Lite, but that's, where was I going with this? But, like, you see what I'm saying? Like, because it's both, like, would it be backwards compatible? Like, the handhelds, or would it be not backwards compatible like the home consoles? The other thing is, if they go back to the original, like from the NES to the GameCube, where it was just a standard console, and then like I said, I'm going back to that again, selling gimmicks on the side. If they go back that route, what would happen to the handheld market? Would they make a new handheld system? Like, that's what's kind of interesting, which was kind of nice. I mean, it's funny, it's like, I like when it was like two different things. Like, you had from the NES all the way to the N64 era, it was the Game Boy, Game Boy Color and stuff, and then, you know, for the GameCube era, it was the Game Boy Advance, and then for, like, the Wii era, it was the DS. So it was like you had two different systems, like, you know, the handhelds had their own set of games, and the consoles had their own set of games. So, you know, with the Switch, you got everything in one, which is kind of nice. So it's like, I kind of like one side where it's like you have two different types of systems with their own games, but I also kind of like having the everything in one. So, like I said, it'll be interesting to see which route they go for that. Yeah. But that's kind of just what I think about the Switch and its 6-year anniversary. You know, like I said, I still enjoy it. There's still some good games coming out for it, you know, especially if they remaster some of the more the GameCube games and stuff. But what do you guys think? What will be the next system? Like, it will be a hybrid, another gimmick, or a traditional one? When do you think we'll see it? Or some other ideas, or whatever. Let me know in the comment section below. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and as always, thanks for watching.